But for anybody avoiding those roads, because they're gravel, it certainly will be a benefit to those people to shorten their distance, to have a paved road to go over, and it will lessen the burden on some of the other roads that actually have an increased burden because these more direct routes are not available because they are gravel, not paved. There's a host of reasons to support doing it, and we have letters from people on Loring Road supporting the paving on that road. Specifically, I think it was 13 different residences that support the paving of that road. But I asked DPW Superintendent to hold off for now until we can have a chance to discuss this, so we plan to talk about it briefly this evening, and again at the Department of Public Works meeting, which I believe will be next Wednesday. Monday being a holiday, they're putting it off to Wednesday, and I would encourage people that have comment, if you don't get a chance tonight or you want to be better involved next Wednesday, you could join. We're going to have a Zoom meeting established for the DPW as well. I don't know how many we can accommodate if people come there to the meeting. I don't know if we can, so I would encourage Zoom participation there as well. I want to make sure we hear from everybody and their concerns. But so far, there's been a lot more support for paving the roads than not. With that, I would open up to discussion from the public if people have something to say after we give Dylan a chance to speak on it.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of feedback, both for and against paving of both of the roads. I feel like we should let people submit their testimony, and it will help the board and the DPW make the most informed decision as to how to proceed. We have a lot of people on the line, so Greg went over a lot of good information there. I will say that the letter from the folks who are in favor of paving Loring Road was signed by 24 residents, not 13, so that's a significant difference there. But I think we should give the floor over to folks and they can discuss what they think should happen with their neighborhood.
Yes, my 13 was residential by address, 13 different residential addresses. Yes, many more people signed it than there were, so multiple per household. But certainly more than the 2 that we've had against it on that road. So Jessica, if you would, we would take comments from people on there that would like to raise their hand and share their concerns or thoughts either way on the issue.
Jen, what was that, Dylan?
I was going to say, if the chair thinks it's a good idea, perhaps we should start with one of the roads and then segue to the other road, just to kind of keep a consistent conversation going.
Certainly. So Jen was up here first. Which road are you wanting to discuss?
That would be Grogan Road.
Okay, then we will open with Grogan Road discussion. Thank you, Dylan.
All right, so my case is, and I have some neighbors here as well that support preserving Grogan Road as a gravel road. It is designated a scenic road. It's less than half a mile and is a cutoff road between 2 main roads. So it's not essential, and it only takes off a little over a mile if you do not use it as a cutoff road. With the reason why we're worried is, first, we just love our dirt road. This is why we live in Barre. We've been residents of Barre for over 20 years. But this road, it's narrow, and it has a very dangerous corner as is, and it's a route where a lot of students drive on to go to school. We feel if it is paved, and like I said, it's at only a half a mile, it will increase this risk of potential accidents, as well as make it less of a safe road to walk on. Like I said, Walnut Road already, we see so much speeding and there's no sidewalks, where we use this dirt road to walk on. And being a student from Quabbin many years ago on the cross-country team, I use this road many times for races as well as practices, and I see every day that this road is still being used for those types of activities. So I would really like the board and the DPW to reconsider paving this road.
Thank you, Jen. Does anyone else want to have input on Grogan Road?
We have Robin.
Hello, Robin, welcome.
Want to unmute yourself, Robin?
Here we go.
I am from Warrant Road, so I don't know if you want to wait to hear from me.
Yes, we'll wait for you then, thank you. Anyone else want to raise their hand for Grogan Road?
We have Lisa Turpin and David
Okay, let's
Petrovic. So we'll
start with Lisa.
Lisa.
Lisa, welcome.
Hi, yes. I just moved to Grogan Road about 4 years ago, and I brought to the attention of I was just questioning why part of it was paved and part of it wasn't. I'm originally from the city area, so and kind of migrated out to the country. So I mean, I got a few opposition about the gravel, as Jen was mentioning about they want it to be a farm road and they want to keep it scenic. And well, if it's scenic, it's out of the way. It's not really scenic, but she brought up the fact about the runners. You know, the high school using run. I think it would be more dangerous on this road. I mean, I try to walk it, and I can barely walk it with all the gravel. I try to, I walk my dog every day. Walked it this weekend. I walk it, and with the gravel and the potholes that it creates, just trying to plow it each year, in the maintaining of it. I think it's more dangerous for the quad runners that we see. And not to mention the damage to the vehicles, when after the winter season and before it gets maintained, the potholes just from car maintenance is more harmful as well. So that's our take on it, that it would be more harmful for the children to do their track on it. And so we're in support of the paving. And I know my neighbors on either side of us, so most of the neighbors are in favor of the paving, but I know there's a few that want it to be less travel going through it. But I think it's just more harmful to people who run on it, and also the vehicles. Damage to the vehicles as well.
Okay, thank you. And just a reminder for folks, track doesn't just run up and down Grogan Road. That's just a portion of their multiple mile route that they take. So most of that is paved for them, and it's not like it's the only portion they have and we're paving their whole route that's gravel. There's some argument cross-country is through trails and it's rough terrain. But I don't know if it's just cross-country or if the track in general trains all runners from so many miles just to warm up. But it's certainly not their only running place. Who do we have next?
We have David Petrovic.
David, welcome.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you very much for holding the meeting. I wanted to just keep it short. I wanted to express my concerns about vehicle speed down this road. I do have a farm. I run farm equipment down. I do see a lot of people using it recreationally. There is already a speeding issue. You pave it, you're going to make it worse. I understand Chapter 94 funds are used to defray the cost of this. It is still money from the taxpayer. And while the DPW may feel it is easier to maintain in the wintertime, I would comment that the snow plows rarely come down with the use of liquid treatments anyway. The town's going to spend money to maintain a road, no matter what is the surface. It's going to be cheaper over the long haul to keep it as an unpaved road. it'll keep the traffic speed down. It'll be just more enjoyable and safe for everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your call. And looks like we have, any more, is that it? Joe,
Well,
Dave.
Jen and Lisa still have their hands up, so I think that would be, unless we want to see if they have something else to say.
Yeah, Jen and Lisa, I see your hands are still raised. Did you have another comment before we move on?
Okay, so Lisa put her hand down,
And,
and Jen still has her hand up, so we'll. give
okay,
her
well, Jen, do you have another comment for us?
one more.
Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, I also, I just put it out there, a petition, seeing how other residents of Barre felt who use this road, and I've only had petition, very, very low-key, solicited it. I got 72 signatures up to date, saying, a lot of comments saying how they do enjoy this road as well, as it is, it's gravel. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this just reminder, I wanted to open a discussion about this evening and start the conversation, but we will be meeting with the Department of Public Works Commission to talk to Highway and talk to everybody involved in that commission to bring these thoughts forward and encourage people to participate there as well. Right now, the roads are scheduled to be resurfaced, I believe, possibly starting the end of next week or the following week, so shortly after the Department of Public Works meetings. For now, they're delayed. We can delay them if need be further till the fall. But there is a possibility we go through in about a week or so. So we encourage people to have their input brought to that meeting as well. Arguments on both sides. As I said, honestly, speeding's an issue on every road in town, paved or unpaved. Whether or not it's going to increase speed on the unpaved, on the newly paved road, there's currently gravel, it's possible, but I really don't think that's real hard reason to not pave it. Most of our roads are paved, and the scenic route is the one thing that has me hesitant on it. If it's, but we do have a lot of roads in town that are listed as scenic byways, and a lot of those are paved as well. And it's scenic byway, not necessarily because of the road, but it is something that gave me, a reason to step back and look at this further. So I do want to continue the discussion, and we'll continue the discussion on both Grogan and Loring roads at the Department of Public Works meeting next Wednesday. I should be at 7 o'clock. So we'll move on now to the Loring Road side of this, and I'll take comments from people that want to be heard about Loring Road.
Okay, we'll start with you, Robin, if you want to unmute yourself.
Robin, can you hear us?
Hi.
Good evening.
Thank you for having this meeting, Mr. Chairman. I want to speak about why a number of us are in favor of paving the road. And first of all, it's a safety hazard. And yes, speeding could be a safety hazard, but having to drive on both sides of the road in order to avoid the potholes and the pits is a bigger safety hazard. I walk and jog on our road. I do appreciate the fact that it's scenic, but I have to pay attention to every single step I take so that I don't twist my ankle because the roads are so uneven. The road washes out. There are two spots that wash out when there are heavy rains. And this happens several times a year. Damage to our cars is increased wear and tear on our cars, and axle problems is much greater because of the state the road is in. And in short, paving this road will make it passable and safer for all of us.
And for those who aren't familiar, your option from Loring Road, if you don't finish driving through, for these folks that live on the paved end, where it may be a half a mile out down to South Street, they would have to go up Southbury Road, up through the Common, and back down South Street, probably almost a 2-mile detour to avoid this probably a quarter-mile stretch. It's not a long stretch of road. There's a lot of reasons we've talked about paving it, but I want everyone to be heard on both sides. So Robin, thank you for calling in, and please join us next Wednesday as well.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Ed Lacka.
Ed, you are up. Welcome.
You just want to unmute yourself.
There you go.
Whoa, I'm Ed Latker. I was the first house that was built on this road. I walk this road with my dog every single day. And to me, it would be a terrible safety hazard to pave this road because of the increase in auto speeds. The road is extremely narrow in several places. A couple of places it's one car width wide, and it cannot be widened. And basically, I'm concerned about the safety.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Well, I do know it's very narrow in place. I assure you it can be widened quite a bit. We don't intend to widen it too much, but it will be widened some. Guardrails are planned to be improved and also deal, I believe, somehow with the water runoff. But DPW will be the better place to look into those aspects so they can either alleviate concerns or listen to them and perhaps postpone it. But I encourage you once again, come Wednesday, the DPW meeting online and Zoom, and we can get better answers. I've talked to Jason Pimentel some about the road, and I've tried to get some input on his side. And I'm trying to share those, that end as best I can. But it's much better done at the DPW meeting.
My daughter, Sarah, that lives at 35 Loring Road.
Yes.
Her boyfriend would like to also speak, if that's okay.
Certainly. Are they with you, or are they going to call in?
We're all sitting in the living room together on the computer.
Oh, welcome. Go ahead.
Okay. Seth hasn't, so my father and I have sent letters, and so you've heard our positions. Seth hasn't been able to share his concerns.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm a resident of Loring Road. Basically, I don't oppose the paving of what is paved already. Obviously, it's in pretty rough repair, and that does need to be addressed. I agree. I feel like the people that in the past that made the decision not to pave through Loring Road took into consideration the safety and some of these other concerns, and that's why they left it the way it was. I've got some concerns with the road itself that you'd be throwing good money after bad just to do a patch job over the top of it without addressing the numerous drainage issues, which I'm of the feeling that it's just going to be, resurfaced with some regrind material and not have any of those issues addressed. Also, I'd like to make an official request, if I could, for the corrugated pipe bridge down between 35 Loring and 53 Loring that handles the flow of the Smith Brook be reviewed by an engineer with a flow study, because that pipe is terribly inadequate. It has topped over several times in the recent past here, where it has actually scoured the surface of the road severely and washed and deposited several dump truck loads of material, soil, debris, along with thousands of gallons of bypass water out of the stream bed of Smith Brook into 53 Loring Road's front yard. So that particular area is of much concern. There was the particular instance was a storm of January 24th, 2019, and we have documentation of the river topping over and flowing into Ed's front yard. So I would request that goes through review with an engineer, because it's definitely inadequate. It could pose a public safety hazard, even more so if it's paved, I feel, because the Galloway Brook within a year or so had an instance where it was plugged up. The drainage underneath the road was plugged up. It scoured. There was a cave-in where it made a cavern under the road. And I just fear if you as well pave over a problem like this, it's just going to rear its ugly head down the road, and so to speak. And you know, I just think it'd be throwing good money after bad not to address these issues. And then, as far as any traffic, like trying to keep some of the flow of other main roads that are designed for major traffic, being major traffic thoroughways, to run extra traffic and think of this as a bypass to take the burden off of these other roads, I don't feel to be a valid point. It's just increasing the traffic load that will denigrate the road much faster. So that's a few of the points I have. Let's see what else. I guess that pretty much touches on my concerns.
All right, and I'd encourage you to bring those documents to the Department of Public Works during the week so we could have those for the meeting. I don't recall seeing those last year in January, and I don't recall the issue being brought up at the Works Commission, so I don't know if that was somehow missed down there, but I don't recall hearing about that washing out before.
You know, we can bring that to your attention. We can bring the information to you so you
Certainly.
have pictures and the dates of the event.
Jason did tell me they have many washouts a year down there, and they go down on a regular basis to fill and patch, and that's part of the reason for paving. It would end that, and I would assume that means draining the issue too. But I don't.
Some of those instances would be including the Smith Brook overtopping and scouring.
Right.
Some is drainage down the side of the road that may be able to be mitigated, you know, with the use of some riprap or water bars or what have you. You know, I ATV up north, and there's 1,000 miles of dirt road that they keep maintained and whatnot. So, you know, I just would say there are methods to mitigate erosion on a dirt road.
Right, and whether we pave the dirt portion or not, the drainage will probably be addressed, and certainly the currently paved portion would be paved with a full depth reclamation, and I believe resurfaced after that, which was the plan there. When we don't talk about just dropping hot top down, there's a full depth reclamation done where regrindings are put in for your base coat, and then it's hot topped over afterwards. But we'll talk about this more Wednesday, not this Wednesday, next Wednesday, Department of Public Works, the commission meeting down there, and make sure you have that input for everybody to discuss so we can decide if we want to postpone it or move forward.
All right, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for calling in.
And Sarah would like to make a quick comment.
I'll give you one more quick minute.
Yeah, with regards to the scenic designation, obviously that doesn't protect the road from possibly being paved, but it does call into question any trees that would need to be removed in order to make it widened, to make it safer for vehicle travel. There's also some stone walls that are very close to the road's edge, which would not be able to be touched because of historic reasons. The same thing with Grogan Road, up past the farm, the stone walls are nearly like right off the road, so it would be
Most of our roads,
meetings and commissions and whatnot to go forward with moving any kind of stone walls or any trees that are along these scenic roads.
Right, I think the stone wall on one side of Loring, particularly by the power lines, is on the embankment going downhill. And the road goes from that stone wall 40 feet the other direction. So you could cut back into the hill some, not obviously cut back and make a big wall and widen the road to 40 feet, but you could certainly take a couple more feet by cutting back into that embankment some, which would give them room for drainage. But I don't know exactly what the plans are, but that's why we want to discuss this with the Department of Public Works. And whether they pave it or not, it's a good chance to address those drainage issues and to see what can be done, what they can put in for drainage down the other side of the road if they push a bank back a little bit and get some sort of culvert or drain pipe down the side of the road. But all things we need to discuss next week.
Yes, those slopes that you're talking about as you approach the power lines going up the hill and then along the power lines, I fear that if you go any further into that hillside, you're risking slumps and land slipping into the roadway. I don't think you would be able to mitigate it without having to do major rock walls there to try to hold back that slope, because nature's job is to make hills less steep, and they work night and day to do that.
Yes, they do, and that's what engineers are for.
Hold on one second. Would you like to say anything?
No, we've got to move on to the next one. We've been here a few minutes, so I can't let the meeting drag too long, but I strongly encourage you to bring that information you have down to Department of Public Works and the photographs for the washouts for Wednesday's meeting. Thank you. Who do we have next?
Cody Bliss.
Cody Bliss. Welcome.
Hello. Hello. Thank you for this opportunity. I would just like to start with pointing out the irony of a street without access to high-speed internet joining by Zoom and the availability of that. So I'd like for that to be at least thought about. Second, I view Loring Road as a one-way road. I don't feel it's safe to go down the other way, which means if I try to get from my house in the middle of Loring to Leaders, I have to go all the way around by the high school and back around. And that's not a inconsiderate distance. So I think if we should really consider if 13 of 15 households are in favor of something, that majority be taken seriously. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have James Ambler.
James, you'll be next. Welcome. James.
Thank you for having this meeting, Chairman.
Thank you for joining.
I'm living at Loring Road since 2005. And the question of whether Loring gets paved, I think that most people would love to have it paved, but with the understanding of it needs constant care and management. The problem that we face is the drainage of water on Loring Road, on both the side of South Street as well as down to Stetson. If we just do a cheap overhaul to cover the problem, as we see with all the patching that is required during just one season, it's going to go again, and it's going to break apart. I would much rather have time taken for an engineering of the road and go from there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Once again, I encourage everyone to bring these concerns to the Department of Public Works. The idea of listening to you all tonight is gives myself and the other selectmen a chance to look into things a little more before we get to the DPW meeting. But the input down there, especially what I'm hearing so far tonight on both sides of the issue to pave or not pave, is drainage. And I don't know if this is already on their, on their list to fix the drainage as well or not, but that's something we'll certainly make sure is brought up at that meeting. Thank you, James. And who do we have next?
We have Whitney Marshall.
Whitney Marshall, you will be next. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
You're welcome.
I live on Loring Road, and I'm a proponent of paving Loring Road. I understand the concerns about the scenic road and all that has to offer. However, just the quality of the road, the driving on it, the amount of work we've had done to vehicles as a result of driving on the road. And as Cody said, I don't feel like I can turn right out of my driveway, especially in the winter. So we're always driving around typically to avoid that side of the road. And it would just be nice to be able to have a road that, even if it can't be widened extensively, that you could at least drive on without, rocking potholes and damaging your vehicle. And I appreciate the scenic roads, but some of the most beautiful scenic roads in town are paved. Go up on Root Road, even Lover's Lane is paved, Old Stage Road is paved. And they're beautiful scenic roads that don't stop being scenic because there's asphalt. And there is, asphalt on 3/4 of Loring Road. And I understand there's concerns about speed, but I just feel that the benefits of having a paved road that is, not in the disrepair that it's currently in would be beneficial. And that's really all I have.
Thank you. And I don't know if it's really a scenic road designation as much as a scenic route designation. I'm not sure what it actually is, but certainly the intent is the area it goes through and the scenery along that route is what makes it scenic, not what's under your feet. Thank you very much, Whitney. Let's move on to who this time?
The only hand raised left are Robin Donati, who already spoke, and also Ed Lacka. So I don't know if they just haven't put their hands down yet or not.
Okay, well, Ed was on.
Robin said in the chat her husband was looking to speak.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Robin, we'll swing back to you now. Robin, welcome. Or Robin's husband.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
My name's Richard Donati, and I live here at 454 Loring. And I don't want to belabor the point, but the road needs to be repaved, as well as drainage needs to be looked at. There is a small stream that runs along my property, all along, and it goes down and it crosses under Loring. There was recently an accident where somebody pushed a bunch of rocks and it damaged the stone wall right there at the culvert. And that culvert gets filled in and washes out quite often as well. But I'm in favor of paving Loring.
Okay, thank you very much. And once again, I encourage you to come to our meeting, Zoom meeting next Wednesday, not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday. That's 9 days from now with the Department of Public Works. Any other comments? I still see Ed's hand still up. Let's swing back to Ed quickly, see if he has another comment before we move on and give him just a quick. I know we had 3 people they were talking to, so.
Hi, I think I have someone by phone that wanted to address something. He was not able to get in by phone through the computer. The link wasn't working for him by phone, so he's going to talk through speakerphone into this microphone.
Sure, we'll see how that works.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Hi, my name's Kevin Myers, and I just wanted to speak on behalf of those who oppose having their roads paved. I moved to Barre in '94 and had a house built on Nichols Road, which was a dirt road. Nice, quiet, country setting, and I came home a couple of years later after it was paved. It became a major control street, and lots of speeding and trash thrown on the side of the roads. Basically that's all I really have to say.
Now Nichols runs from, was it 122 down to Elm Street area? Oak Street?
22, yes, down there, I think it goes right into First Street, down to the Italian section.
Yes, yes. Okay. Thank you, Ed. Okay, that should take care of all of our raised hands.
Yep.
Dylan, any more comments after listening to everybody?
No more comments at the moment.
Okay. As I said, I want us to just hear these concerns in person more than just what we get from the letters and emails we get. And I also want to call it out publicly so people can listen to it. And I highly encourage anybody listening, if you have any input, to either email the administrator, the selectman, or join the Zoom meeting to the Department of Public Works Commission meeting next week, so we can make sure everybody gets a chance to be heard on this. I stated some of the reasons earlier on that these roads have been selected to be paved. And, I would add in that, it's not just about the people that live on the road. We do have 13 homes and 21 people on Loring in favor of paving, and we have 2 homes and multiple people against it. But these roads also still belong to the town of Barre. And I would like to hear other residents too, because the residents do want to have some cut-through options to go across those 2 routes without having to the extra 2 miles uptown and back. And the same thing on Grogan Road. Someone who's coming out that can save a mile on their 2-mile trip to the post office is probably a significant savings on their trip, for them, if it's a short trip. But I still want to hear everyone's input, and we still want to debate these at the Department of Public Works. We can either move forward with some of the reclamation in a week or so, or we could possibly postpone it longer if need be, but we'll see how settled we feel with this next week. And thank you, everyone, for calling in tonight, and I please encourage you to join us again on next Wednesday. With that, we'll move on to our next item, which is a Chapter 61 transfer on Farrington Road for us to waive the first right of refusal. Jessica, you want to bring us up to speed on this?
Yes, so there is a resident in town who's looking to sell a portion of their land, which is classified under Chapter 61, which is forest land designation. They want to sell 3 acres of it to somebody who is interested in building a house on it. And it just has to go through a simple process. It doesn't have to be brought to town meeting in order to be given that opportunity to make it into a residential property.
So they're requesting that we waive our option to purchase the land.
Right.
Without delving into this too deeply, I would assume the town has this is land. I've read some from the conservation. It is abutting our drinking waters, or it's abutting the watershed land for the state. Do you know which one it is?
I don't know which one it is.
Okay. And this is up in Farrington, so it quite most likely is near the watershed protected land. So whether or not we opt out of our right to buy the land, somebody who purchases it may still not be able to build on it, depending on what they find out for the restrictions from watershed. If you're building a home, you're talking about having a septic system installed and everything else, and setbacks from that watershed property. So there's things to consider for them on that side. As far as the town side, we just have to have a decision of whether or not we'd be interested in preserving that land as forest land and the town picking it up to do that. Dylan, do you have any thought on that?
I'm not familiar with the property, but so I would like to know a little bit more about it, see if conservation has anything to say about it.
Conservation did give us a letter. I'll keep talking and I'll look into that in a minute.
Yeah, I would like to review it a little bit more. On the face of it, I don't see a big problem with letting somebody build a small dwelling on a small piece of land. So at first glance, I'm partial to think that this is a reasonable request, but I would like to know a little bit more about the property and what it would mean for the neighborhood at large and the impact on the environment.
Well, there are homes on Farrington, of course. I'm not sure which way this map, it only has Farrington Road listed, it doesn't tell me the other roads. Not one I can read, so I'm not sure which way this is.
Does that split into Sunrise and
Yes.
Fisher Road?
Yes. And it comes off of Williamsville Road,
Yeah.
and then Sunrise comes off to the right, so I'm assuming that's where it is. But it's not significant to the town for our purposes, like the piece of land we accepted last year was out near our well, and it buffered our well, and that was a good piece to pick up for open land. But this isn't gonna benefit us as far as open land. There are several houses there, and on Sunrise as well around that. So I personally don't see any reason we'd wanna look at the land. We certainly haven't been talking about acquiring it. It hasn't been on our radar. So to that end, the first right to refusal, I don't have a problem, passing over on us getting the land. The conservation did point out distances and proximities to wetlands and waterways and things, but that would not be an issue for us. Just because we release the land from our first right to refusal doesn't excuse them in paying any fees they'd have to pay to take it out of 61, which would benefit the town if that was done. And it would certainly still have all the requirements for somebody who wants to build to follow. So they'd still have to make sure they do things appropriately with conservation and building. So I don't think there's any reason for us to worry about the wetland portion, because this isn't any permit to build. It's just saying that we want to pass over our right to buy it.
Well, I'd be amenable to that.
Okay, so if what we say here is we're looking for, it says, "We, the Board of Selectmen for the town of Barre, Worcester County, vote not to exercise the town of Barre's right of first refusal or assignment as set forth in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 61, Section 8, concerning the certain 3-acre parcel shown on the Barre Assessors Map F as parcel 60, and further as described in a deed recorded at WDRD, so it's Worcester, I don't know, it's something to do with the deeds and registry of the deeds in Worcester, or probably Worcester District Registry of Deeds book. 17/8/48, page 120, owned by, we don't need to put the person's name in here right now, but they're selling the parcel 3 acres for $30,000, so I see no reason for us to purchase it for that $30,000. So I'd look for a motion to agree that we're going to vote to not exercise. I'm looking for a motion to not exercise our right to refuse, first right to refusal.
Sure, I'd like to make a motion that we do not exercise our first right of refusal in pertaining to parcel 60 of the property in question.
Thank you very much, and I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor of waiving our right to take it?
Dylan Clark, aye.
And Greg O'Sullivan, yes. So that will be waived, and they can move forward with their sale, and then, of course, that doesn't give them the right to build or anything. It just means we're not going to take the land. Next, warrant for the 2020 presidential election. I have not looked the whole thing over, and there's not a chance I'm going to do it in this level. Let me see if there's a better one to read.
It's in that manila folder.
Yeah, because my eyes can't, I gotta start bringing glasses here. I gotta own up to it. I need some reading glasses when I do this stuff. All right. Dylan, do you have a copy you can read?
I have a copy. Do you want me to read it out loud?
I was gonna say no. You know what? We just notified people. I want you to make sure you can look it over. For anybody interested in this, it's posted on our site. Yes, Jessica?
Yes.
They can see this document, the warrant, on our site. Posted at the Senior Center and posted at the American Legion, for Precinct 1 and 2, 3rd day November, listing the positions: President, Vice President, Senator in Congress, Representative in Congress, Counselor, Senator in Court, Worcester, Hampton, Hampshire, Middlesex District, Representative in General Court, and Register of Probate. These are the offices that are up for election in this. Question 1, proposed initiative petition. Do you approve the law summarized below, on which a vote was taken by the Senate and House of Representatives on or before May 5th, 2020? Once again, I don't want to read the summary. I know these mailers have gone out to people. People should have received these for the questions. So we're just looking to approve the warrant. I don't
Also,
think.
there's the question 2 you didn't mention, Greg,
Yes.
but that falls under the, both questions, everyone should have that info. I got my packet in the mail the other day, so everyone should know a little bit
Right.
about
So
those.
question 2 is, do you approve a law summarized below, on which a no vote taken by the Senate or the House of Representatives on before? But the summary is that the law would implement a voting system known as ranked choice voting, in which voters rank one or more candidates by order of preference. Ranked choice voting would be used in primary and general elections for all Massachusetts statewide offices, state legislative office, federal congressional office, and certain other offices beginning in 2022. A ranked choice voting would not be used in elections for president, county commissioner, or regional district school committee members. It goes on to describe that in a very confusing manner, so I wouldn't even attempt to read it. But those are the 2 questions, and of course the offices that are open. Just make sure we have the dates. November 3rd, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. I'm happy with the warrant if you are.
I am.
Look for a motion then to approve the warrant for posting.
Sure, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this warrant for the constables to post for the 2020 general election warrant.
Thank you. I will second the motion. We have a motion and a second to approve the warrant. I'll just call for vote. We already discussed it. All those in favor?
Yep, Dylan Clark, aye.
And Greg O'Sullivan, yes. So these copies we'll have to all sign and make sure Matt knows. I'll get them signed tonight. I'm sure Jessica, you have them up in the office.
Those are the ones that you need to sign right there.
Right, but we all have to sign them.
Yep. And
So,
yeah, they'll be
I'll-
wrapped up in my office.
I'll scribble on them tonight before I go. And when do they actually have to be out? Not too soon, is it? Do you know the deadline?
I think you have a couple days to sign up.
Yeah, but as soon as you can,
Soon,
Dylan,
yeah.
and we'll tell Matt, let's get them signed. All right, Personnel Committees, Assistant Accountant Appointment, Paula Barker. So what do we have going on, Jessica, with Paula?
Yes, so I did, as I was asked, and I opened up the application for assistant accountant to internal employees. We got 3 applicants, and Jean and I interviewed all 3 and decided that Paula was the best fit for the needs of the office. And then, so now we're just bringing it in front of the board to make it official.
Okay, we discussed this briefly. Dylan, you recall we just talked about this, right? And this is
Yeah,
going
that's
to make her full-time, she's gonna have enough hours split between these positions to be a full-time employee. That's correct?
Yep, and I tried to talk to Attorney Dupre about it as we discussed, but he wasn't able to take a phone call today, so I'll have to follow up with him tomorrow on it. Because one of the things that you all were discussing was, making her position into one kind of general municipal employee position.
Correct.
So I still need to follow up with Attorney Dupre on.
Right, we have to make sure we do it in the right manner so that she doesn't have multiple jobs that conflict with the town, and that creates issues. So she's
Right.
got an employee, being a town employee that's tasked with these different tasks under her one
Right.
job title.
Mhm.
So we may need to rename the position whatever manner.
Right.
And this will entitle her to her benefits finally, after multiple years of working for us, finally get her to getting some benefits. Okay, Dylan, so you recall this one we talked about?
I do, I recall this conversation.
Okay.
Do we still need to take steps to clarify the job title with the attorney, Frank?
Right, we're gonna let Jessica and the attorney work that out. This would just be our approval to go ahead and hire her so they can create that position properly for her and get her working. So we take, I have what, 2 wage authorizations for her?
So, yes, so she is also up for a step increase in the assessor's office, so that's why there's 2 different.
Well, okay, so let's hold on a minute. The intent here is gonna be to put her under one position with one pay.
Right.
We don't wanna split her pays. So this, we don't need 2 wage authorizations. You see what I'm saying? When we make this position, we need her total hours. All right, here's what I'd say, Dylan, why don't we put this off to Wednesday's meeting and address this at DPW?
Okay,
Let's get this rolled into one position, so there's one authorization.
okay,
And, because this is exactly what we're trying to avoid, having 2 different authorizations and different pay scales.
right,
You're gonna have to figure out the appropriate pay scale, where she's at, where she's gonna fit into the existing employee pay scale,
right,
where she fits in on that, so she's at the right classification and step. But, really, she's gonna be a new full-time employee, is
Right.
what this comes down to. So, let's get that all buttoned up and address this, please, at the next one. Dylan, are you okay with that?
I am okay with that.
Thank you. What else do we have here? We have, oh, good. EMT, we have 2 for Kylie, exactly the same. Why is that?
because one came from your packet and one is the one that I had originally signed.
So
So I brought,
So I crossed 2 over, is what you're saying.
yeah,
All right. We have wage authorization, Chief Rogowski's hired Kylie Vasser, am I saying that right?
sounds good to me.
EMT, just a regular on-call. FD2 minimum wage, minimum step, I guess, right?
Yep.
For $15.97 an hour. So we're just looking for a motion to approve that wage for Kylie.
I'll make a motion that we approve the wage authorization for Kylie Visser.
And I will break from my norm, and I will second that motion this evening. I just want to point out to people, as I am a special municipal employee, I am allowed to participate in all the fire department votes and motions and proceedings. I choose not to because I'm a firefighter, but in the instances such as this, we're missing a selectman, I will participate so that the chief can keep his employees going and keep the station staffed. Therefore, I have seconded it. Motion to second, do I have any further discussion?
No.
Okay, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Clark, aye.
And O'Sullivan, yes. Simple enough. We had, that was another Paula one. That was the 3rd one for her? That was all 3, okay. I got it. request to use town property for Barre Scary Halloween.
So I'll
I suppose you're pitching this one to us, Jessica.
Me and Chief Carbone is here as well to speak on this.
Okay,
So if you want to unmute yourself. Hi, Chief.
welcome.
Good evening, Chief.
So you want to use the town property for Scary Halloween again, huh?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We want to close down the center and use the commons for the same sort of thing as we did last year and the year before.
Okay. Dylan, do you have any comments? Dylan, any thought or comment before I say anything?
No, I don't have any questions or comments about this. Actually, hold on, I'm looking at the wrong town property request here. Let me find the one we're speaking about.
I don't see the other request for, did you put a form in for Barre Scary or no?
Yeah, I did fill one out, but it may have gotten lost in the shuffle.
All right. I don't see it in the packet here, so it might not be in our packet, Dylan, but it's just the usual Halloween. The reason I asked if you had comment, because, you know, the CDC's suggesting people ban Halloween, which I think is ridiculous. Many people I see discussing this on Facebook. Now, this is, of course, the people I have on Facebook, so I don't know how everyone feels about it. But people want to see Halloween, they want to see trick-or-treating, and I know the kids want to see trick-or-treating. To that end, if somebody is uncomfortable having people to their house and trick-or-treating, turn off your light, don't put out candy. If somebody is uncomfortable with their children participating in trick-or-treating, then please don't send them out. Other than that, I am fully in favor of continuing with Halloween, continuing with the Barre Scary and the Trunk or Treat, and having our normal October 31st activities in the town of Barre. And Dylan, that's what I want to give you a chance to comment on.
Yeah, sure. I would agree with that. And the Barre Scary event, you know, it's out in the open air. I don't see a problem with that. And in fact, I look forward to it.
And as well, the trick-or-treating in general, I just want to make a point to say I still stand behind our date for Halloween trick-or-treating. And I, for one, will still be prepared to hand out my treats for children and adults on Halloween, as I have done for many years here in town so far, and hopefully will continue to.
Yeah, you know, trick-or-treating is a pretty opt-in thing. So I think people who want to participate, they can and they will, and those who don't, they won't. So
Absolutely.
I don't have a problem with that.
Thank you very much. Okay, then, I'd look for a motion to approve the use of the common for Barre Scary Halloween.
Yeah, I'd like to make that motion, and we approve the use of town common, town property for the Barre Scary event.
I will second that motion. Have motion is second. Do I have any further comment?
No.
John?
No, thank you.
Okay. In that case, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Clark, aye.
And O'Sullivan is yes. We look forward to it once again. Next request to use town property is MOC and Henry Woods Building. What do we have here?
That's
Make opportunity count.
Making opportunities count in the Henry Woods Library. They're doing a kind of a joint effort on their story walk, and MOC has done quite a few story walks in the past couple months, so.
Right, this is also for during the Halloween event time, correct? Or is this a different date?
I think
Oh,
it's a
October
different-
29th. This
Yeah,
is the 29th.
yep.
Okay. Yeah, this is the annual events. They tell the stories, they walk around, and they have the kids come up to it. This is a big event for the town, put on with the library, correct?
Correct.
Dylan, any comments, concerns, or would you like to make a motion?
No, I have no comments or concerns. You would entertain a motion?
Yeah, we can address fees for that if you'd like, being it's a public town event. And
approve the use for town property. That's my motion.
I have a motion to waive the fee and approve the use of town property for making opportunity count, and I second that motion. Motion is second. Do we have any further discussion?
I do not.
Having none, we'll call for vote. Those in favor?
Clark, aye.
And O'Sullivan, yes. And then swing back to the Barre Scare. We want to make sure we also make a motion we waive any fees for that event as well.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we waive the fee associated with the Barre Scary event and its use of town property.
And I'll second that. We'll call for a vote right away. All those in favor?
Yes.
And O'Sullivan, yes. Make sure we make that clear. Okay. Moving down our list here. COVID-19 update.
So we have some good news for COVID-19 update. The state has allowed low-risk communities to expand their offerings as far as social distancing and the number of people who can be at an event at any one time. So the capacity has increased from 50 to 100 people outside and from 25 to 50 people on inside events. And overall, I think that this is just a really good opportunity for the town to continue opening businesses back up and getting back to where we used to be before COVID-19 came. Again, we're in a place now that we haven't been for many months. And while we do have this new freedom, I continue to encourage everyone to remain vigilant and stay safe, because across the Commonwealth and across the country, we are seeing an increase in number of positive cases every day. So just stay vigilant. We've also had 2 positive cases in the town in the past. Since we last met, which was 2 weeks ago, we've had 2 positive cases reported to my knowledge. And we will get more of an update tomorrow at our on Wednesday at our emergency management meeting. Other than that, CARES Act Round 2 funding opened up on October 1st. They let us know on September 29th that it was going to open on October 1st, which is why I didn't have our application prepared for you all today. So the application for Round 2 will be prepared for the October 19th meeting. That application is due by October 30th, so we will have plenty of time to make sure that that gets submitted prior to the due date. And other than that, I'm open to any questions.
Do we have a list of things that are on the wish list for that?
Yes, we do. I'm still getting quotes from a lot of the departments, but we did meet, and we do have a pretty good wish list with, as we realize what else the CARES Act can cover, we try to include as much as possible.
Okay. And we have, as we were talking about.
Jessica, since we have people tuning in, would you mind summarizing some of those items for anyone who's interested?
Sure. So, this round of CARES is really big on elections because there's a lot of costs that are being incurred this year that we're not prepared for and have never been incurred in previous years. So some things that we're looking at are cameras to keep an eye on our ballot box. That is coming from the state. They have mandated that we have to have 24/7 surveillance on our ballot box for security reasons, and so that can take place of a human being can do that security, or we can have a camera. So I've gotten, I'm working on getting quotes for security. We're also looking at getting security for inside the Henry Woods building in our foyer area to keep an eye on the front door. So again, we are doing early voting here in person throughout the month of October. So we want to make sure that we have extra security measures for the increased number of ballots that are going to be filled out here. We also have a couple of items for the police officers and for the firefighters. So, for our police station, and also, you know, it'll be used across multiple different departments, but we are getting, large message board signs that are portable and can, project messages out to people who are driving around town. And they are the really big orange ones that you see kind of near construction sites or whatnot, so you really can't miss the message that they're portraying. We're also looking at, getting more uniforms for our police officers who, you know, they are required now to clean their uniforms more often, which can lead to, you know, issues with wear and, you know, availability of having their uniforms. Also for the fire department, they are looking to get a power loading stretcher, which will reduce the need for a higher number of responders to a call with somebody who is heavier, which would require more people to lift someone manually. A power stretcher will allow one or two people to take care of that patient instead of 6 or 7. And then also an oxygen-related equipment that firefighters use, which I'm not really great on the terminology, but it helps with the vitals, reading the vitals. So those are some of the items, some of the big items that we're looking at getting.
Excellent. Any other questions, Dylan?
No other questions at the moment.
Okay. We'll keep moving along here. Approval of minutes, we're going to postpone at Matt's request. He had some comments on some of those. So we'll let the minutes slide until we hear from Matt. And correspondence reports, we have a few here. One from, we'll start with RJ McDonald. Is that the service fees, or is that just a letter from RJ McDonald from the,
No, it's a letter.
in regards to trimming the branches?
Yes.
All right, so we had a letter in regards to trimming branches up near the common, since we have a bucket truck suggesting that these would be better trimmed now because they may be hazards as the winter weather approaches us. We can certainly pass that on to the highway department who does the trimming. I believe we just had the bucket truck. We co-own this with other communities. We have it at a certain allotment of time per month. I don't know exactly how that works out offhand. And they have been trimming a lot of trees. We'll bring that letter to Jason's attention. And, you know, it may be something where if it's near power lines, it's more of a national grid type of thing anyways. I don't know offhand, but we'll certainly have a look at them. Any comments on that one, Dylan?
I have no comments, except that it seems like it would be worth our trouble to make sure that the lights don't get interfered with by any falling branches, so. I appreciate RJ McDonald bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, I don't know if it's RJ or exactly who brought it, but I'm missing where I just put the letter. There we go. And I can't read that. So anyways, it's on RJ McDonald letterhead. The next correspondence we have is from the Town of Douglas Board of Selectmen. And I'm challenged to read exactly what it says. Without qualified immunity, the financial exposure to your city or town is simply untenable.
Yep.
We urge you to have your board view the matter,
To the MMA.
board's view on the matter to the MMA directly.
Right.
I was just looking at that briefly and I didn't really get a chance. Jessica, do you know what it's about? Have you read it more
Yes.
thoroughly? Because I don't want to speak on it without doing that.
Right, so the Massachusetts Municipal Association, they on a number of issues every year. They take policy standpoints. And so this year, one of the policy issues that they've taken up is the police reform legislation. And Massachusetts Municipal Association has supported the police reform legislation that is going through the State House right now. And so the town of Douglas, their Board of Selectmen wrote this letter to Mr. Beckwith, who's the CEO of the MMA, to express their disappointment with the MMA's position on this legislation.
I'm not familiar with what the language in the legislation and what's calling for police reform, as they say. Very hard to take a position without having the legislation in front of us. Dylan, do you have any familiarity with this or any input?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I haven't looked into this. I don't know about this specific legislation or where it's at. So I don't feel prepared for making any comments on this topic at the moment.
Okay. People have been calling for police reform, as I understand, mainly because of the shootings that we see pop up on social media of unarmed personnel, especially those of color, by police officers. What I found from what I've seen in data I've looked at is that occasionally there are shooting of unarmed people by police officers, but it's not just of people of color. It happens people of all colors and white people as well. And it's by far the exception, not the rule. I don't know how familiar people are with police training now and the circumstances they come under, but it's not a very simple black and white issue that you can understand the circumstance and the situation, say, oh, we definitely should shoot and you shouldn't shoot, or use a taser. These things unfold very quickly and often very confusing situations, more often than not in the dark. And I support the efforts of our and other police departments to do their best, as they do now. Whether or not there's reform needed or better training for them, I don't know. I recently had the opportunity to witness a trailer that was owned by the Middlesex County Sheriff's Department, where they have this type of training that people want, and I think this is a good example and a good purpose. The trailer has scenarios. They do have live fire scenarios, and they have other confrontational issues for the officers to undergo and experience, many of which don't involve firearms or use of force. But it gives them a good exposure to these unforeseen circumstances, real scenarios that have happened. Unfortunately, Worcester County doesn't have this trailer. And from my perspective, if we're going to do anything to train officers, we should invest the money on a state level in a trailer like this that can go around to police departments run by the Worcester County Sheriffs and give them this experience and this real-life training that would benefit them. Often when you are trained by the book or at an academy to do something, when the experience comes up in real life, it's very different and very confusing, and it takes time and experience with those situations to be more accustomed to them and more efficiently handle them. And a trailer like this, I think, is the way to go to give our officers better training that they need. I don't know what's in the bill going up with the state right now, and therefore I won't oppose or support it. But I'm very hesitant, without knowing what's in it, and hesitant to make any sweeping changes in our police force, because I think overall they do a pretty good job. Dylan, I'll give you a chance to have open mic on that as well.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know what's in this legislation. I do believe that our force here in town is a group of professional civil employees. who are doing the best they can. And I just want to say that I need to look over this more before making any statements on it.
Okay. Jessica, I'll give a rare input for this political issue for you. You deal with the police and you deal with the legislative side of these things, so what do you think of what's going on?
So, I'm going to say that the issue that, the town of Douglas is taking up is specifically with qualified immunity, which I don't know too much about, but Chief Carbone is still on the line as well if he wants to put in, if he could give more of a background on what qualified immunity is, but it's my understanding that it's, gives police officers currently, the opportunity to be protected based off of, you know, the outcomes of decisions that they make while on duty. So that's my general understanding of qualified immunity.
I believe you're correct, and, you know, depending what this is, this extends to first responders sometimes, you know, when you're trying to do life-saving, you know, issues for people. And I don't know how far extending it goes or how, but let's say the first responders use the jaws and cut a car open and take somebody out, and then they get sued for cutting the car later. That's a type of immunity that they have now to do their tasks. And I don't know how that corresponds to the police, but Chief, we'd welcome your input.
I do have some information on this. I would say that two things are important. Our representative, our state rep, and our senator have been fighting very hard against this legislation to try and change it into something that's workable. Qualified immunity for police officers is a two-parter. The first is there's this idea that if you're acting under the color of law that is doing your job as a police officer and you make a mistake, that you can't be held accountable. That's not true at all. Qualified immunity doesn't keep you from facing charges for criminal acts, and it doesn't keep you from being sued for acts that were outside of the scope of your duties or even just very poor choices. It's limited to a very narrow scope of acting under the color of the law. And police officers are sued all the time, unsuccessfully, but they are still sued and they don't get qualified immunity. The real big problem here is that they want to take away the right to the town to provide legal counsel for a police officer and allow a person to sue a police officer, and the officer would have to, out of his own pocket or her own pocket, pay for an attorney. And that's just undoable. You'll lose officers left and right if that becomes the case.
Okay. I know my brother, who's a police officer, is opposed to this as well. A lot of concerns for them, and that makes sense, and that's my understanding is, as long as they're performing their duties as an officer, within the prescription of their duties and with the allowance of the law, it protects them from being sued randomly from someone who's just disgruntled, as opposed to, like Chief said, to defend yourself in a lawsuit could cost you $30,000, and if the town can't support you on that, that's going to be unworkable for people. So I'd like to tend to want to support that letter, but we'll hold off until we can discuss it with Matt. And maybe we'll also put this on the agenda. We'll have a brief meeting planned to after the DPW commission meeting. We'll meet for a few and discuss this as well. Dylan, that sound good?
Yes, that sounds good.
So you get a better idea what it's about. We'll get a chance to talk to. I'll try to give our state rep a call and see what he's doing with it, so we can maybe have a little more input and give us a chance to look at the letter more carefully written by the select board from Douglas and see if we want to draft a similar document to send forward to the MMA so that they're not endorsing this policy. That being said, we are down to Selectmen Reports. What do I need to cover? Nope, we have CMRPCs requesting that we appoint an alternate delegate. We have Doug Martin is our planning board delegate for the CMRPC, and they're requesting that we appoint a resident as an alternate.
They're requesting that one of the Board of Selectmen members are the alternate.
Oh, that's not how I read that, okay.
Or maybe I misread it, because that's how I read
The
it.
Board of Selectmen appoints the alternate. The alternate must be a resident of your community according to our
Oh.
records.
Okay,
So it says that the delegate must be a member of the planning board or a resident, and we have it as a planning board. So it looks like they're just asking us to appoint one.
right.
So to that end, have we had any people volunteering looking for this, or should we open that up to the public now?
We can open it up to the public now, or, I mean, one of the select board members could also serve as that resident too. Kind of like how the planning board, you know, Doug is obviously both a planning board member and resident, but
Dylan, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss this when Mr. Erdman is present. He might have some ideas on this. I'm not sure the best approach to take, whether to open it up to anyone who's interested, or if one of us wants to do it. I think it might be worth pushing this off maybe until our next regularly scheduled meeting to discuss this a little bit more. I don't see any, in this letter from CMRPC, I don't see how timely our decision needs to be made, which suggests that maybe we have a little bit of time to figure out the best fit for a delegate.
Right, I was looking at that as well. I don't see any dates, leaves us a date from when we appoint. You know, we have the member, which is the important side of it. The alternate is just our backup, so I don't think we're hard pressed. I'm sure Doug is staying involved. Yeah, it does say the current Board of Selectmen alternate is vacant, but I don't think it's supposed to be necessarily a select board member. If it is, then we'll work that out, but I agree, let's put this off for our next meeting. We won't do it at the DPW, will do that
okay.
on the next regular board meeting.
October 19th.
And then we have this from Voltec contract.
Well, that's my report,
Okay.
but I don't know if you want to go back and appoint the election worker from personnel?
Did I miss that?
Yes,
I missed appointment of an election worker.
yes.
I
Cheryl
did,
Silas.
look at that. My goodness. Okay, we had an election worker, Cheryl Silas, to appoint. So I'll make a motion to appoint Cheryl Silas as an election worker.
I will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Clark, aye.
O'Sullivan, yes. I missed a paper for that too somewhere, I guess. I didn't find it in the loose stuff.
I didn't have usually Ellen will just send me names, and
Oh,
that's
okay.
how I.
All right, well, that's why I skipped over. We'll go with that, not because I can't read what's in front of me. Okay, so that should catch us up on everything on the agenda. So we'll do Selectmen Reports. Dylan, if you have anything, now is the time.
I don't have anything in particular, although I would request from Jessica to include a little bit in her report on the progress and where we stand with the expansion of cable service. If we have any updates on that front, I would love to hear them. But otherwise, I have no selectmen report.
Okay. I don't think there's anything I'm forgetting. I don't think there's anything I wanted to bring up in particular this evening. So Jess, we'll go ahead and have your administrative report.
Sure. First, I'd like to start off with, I got a letter from the state, the Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, saying that we have been designated as a municipal vulnerability preparedness community. And this is something that I know Andrew worked really hard on. And so we finally have that letter that designates us as that community, which will allow us to go forward with applying for MVP action grants, which are incredibly helpful for communities. They bring in a lot of great resources for us. So I'll be working with the EEA on those. Last week I did have a meeting with Andrew Smith, who is from the EEA, and also CMRPC to talk about the future of municipal vulnerability preparedness action grants. And those were some pretty exciting conversations. So once those grants open up, I believe he said late February, early March, we'll be in a really good position to apply for some of that funding. And in the time leading up to then, I'll be continuing to work with CMRPC and the EEA on planning for what we're going to apply for those MVP grants.
Excellent, congratulations.
So yes, thank you, Andrew. Also in my report that I submitted, these are just some updates from September, some things that I wanted to tie up loose ends on. So the Voltrek contract that we talked about early last month, the question from the select board was, what happens if we don't renew our contract with them? Basically, we have to provide data to Mass Electric Vehicle Incentive Program for 3 years, which ends next year. So having this software there will allow us to provide that data very easily. And then after that, we can decide to not re-up the contract, and those EV stations will still be operational, but they become what they called a dumb station. And so basically it just provides electricity, and it doesn't provide anything to promote the location of the station. So for example, right now, if you were to look at a map of, on Google Maps, if you were to look at the Henry Woods Municipal Building, you would see the EV station pop up without even having to search for it. So it is something that, allows us to be on the map for people to find. It also will not allow us to generate any kind of reports to see what the usage is. And it would not allow us to charge any fees to use the station if that's a route that we choose to go through in the future. So you basically have to know where it is and you can use it. So that's something that we can talk about again next year. So I know that you had all requested the fuel bid results, so I attached a spreadsheet of those. As far as Flaherty Road goes, Attorney Barrett is still doing his research to determine what the town owns and whether it is a discontinued road or not. He suggested having the building inspector observe the volume of objects on the property that we talked about at the last meeting to see if there's any violations there. And then I'm just waiting to hear back from them, the building inspector and the Board of Health on that situation. In Human Resources, Mary Markowski, our assistant collector, Sandy Hood, the administrative assistant, and myself worked together to revamp our onboarding process for new employees. In the past, there have been many times when there's been issues with onboarding, which can create a lot of frustration between departments where, one department has all the paperwork, one department is missing paperwork, and there's just, kind of an interruption in the communication there. And then also some incorrect information being inputted, or not all documentation needed was being submitted before the person was onboarded and starting their service. So we tried to address that as quickly as possible by creating a new process which all of the department heads know about, where they go from, they send the new employee to Mrs. Markowski to get all of the paperwork, and she's able to go through all of the different things that are needed for that paperwork, and she's also able to go over all of the benefits that are offered to new employees. And then, once they fill that out, she'll get the information again, make photocopies of everything that she needs for their office and the treasurer collector's office, and then send the information up to my office, where Sandy will handle some of the paperwork that they can't have in the treasurer collector's office, or they can't process in the treasurer collector's office. And I would like to note that Mary Markowski has been working very hard over the past month to improve the quality of human resources that we offer by taking webinars through the Mass Municipal Association. So I thank her for doing that. As far as elections go, Ellen our town clerk received a $5,000 grant to support purchases for the election that are incurred due to COVID-19. This is separate than the CARES Act, but one way she will be using this money is to purchase UV light sanitation wands that will be a quicker way than wiping down all of the booths with wipes, and it will also eliminate any kind of moisture that could get onto ballots, which would create a lot of issues with processing those ballots. So that's just, I think there's another way that she can use that $5,000, but she does plan on getting a handful of those UV light sanitation wands, which will be super helpful. And also the state is reimbursing the ballot drop box for all communities. In September, I had applied for a wellness grant through Maya to get all of the employees, 25 employees, sit-stand desk converters and ergonomic mats, which help when you are standing and working. And luckily, we got that grant, and so that hardware will be delivered soon. Some of the benefits of a sit-stand desk converter include increased alertness and productivity, along with decreasing health problems like obesity and heart disease. So I hope that this will be, kind of a cool tool for our employees to have access to, as we go forward. I'm just always trying to think of ways to make work life better for everyone, and hopefully everybody really enjoys these. As far as the CARES Act Round 2, I talked about that in my COVID update, and I will have more updates for you all on October 19th. And the last thing I'll cover is the Mr. Clark's question on the expansion of cable service, and to date I haven't gotten any updates, but it's something that I'm going to be talking with stakeholders in the next couple of days, because I am going to apply for the Community Compact Grant, and I want to see how we can incorporate cable access into that. I don't know if it'll be a possibility, but that's what I'm going to find out over the next couple of days is what our capacity is for using those funds for that kind of project.
Excellent. Could you tell us a little more what the sit-stand is all about?
Yes, so we all know that it's not good to be sitting down all day for 8 hours a day or more. So these sit-stand desk converters are something that goes on top of your desk, and it allows you to raise the height of your computer and your keyboard up to a height that you can stand and use, which will allow employees to break up their day from sitting and standing, and it's just overall been shown better for your health to be doing that, having that kind of variability throughout your day. And the ergonomic mats are also important to have, because if you are standing on a hard surface like we have in the town hall,
It hurts your back.
it can hurt your back, it can hurt your knees, and so ergonomic mats provide that kind of cushion that's necessary to combat those issues with standing for too long. But the Maya also has training and resources available to teach people how to use these standing desks to their greatest advantage, because everybody has different needs when it comes to how long they should be or could be standing. So I'll make sure that all of the employees get those resources as well.
Excellent. So we're not forcing them to stand all day, we're just giving the option to split it up.
Yes.
That was my concern.
Yep, no, and it's not, it's equally as detrimental to be standing all day as it is to be sitting all day.
I stand all day, so I wouldn't know, but.
Yeah, so these, there's like a lever to it, so you can bring it down to sitting level, or you can raise it up to standing level.
Excellent.
So,
Dylan, any more questions?
No, I don't have any more questions this evening. But I will make a comment that standing desks are really excellent. Being able to switch back and forth, that sounds awesome. So, it's great we got this grant from Maya. Thank you, Jessica, for all your hard work on that front, as always.
thank you.
Great job, great job. Okay. Nobody else online? Claire? Anybody have any closing comments online before I cut this out? I don't see any, so I look for the appropriate motion, Dylan.
All right, I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Clark, aye.
And O'Sullivan will be yes. Good night, everyone.